the joy is in the creative practice. It's not about getting it right. It's not about having the answers. It's about having a go. And that's the same in leadership and in most of life, because we're all leaders of our own lives, aren't we?
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Creativity Is. I am your podcast host for today, Michaela Tranfield, and I am a South Asian woman. I live in London. I have black wavy hair with brown highlights. I have also got gold earrings on, and I'm wearing a brown jumper dress. I'm currently sitting in our amazing podcast studio at Somerset House, and I'm surrounded by lots of plants, like quite a warm feeling, and lots of ambient lighting.
Great. And I'm Jo Hunter. I'm the founder and CEO of 64 Million Artists. I'm a white woman with sort of short reddish hair, and I am wearing a black jumpsuit, and I'm sat next to Michaela in this very cozy podcast studio, which I'm loving.
Amazing studio. So we're going to kick off today's episode by having a creative prompt. Can I get a woo?
Ooh, very exciting.
And we've got a gold envelope right here for the creative prompt. So let me try and open it smoothly, which I don't do.
The anticipation. It's killing me.
Okay. So our prompt for today, Jo, is it's been set up by UOK which is a mental health and wellbeing charity for doctors. And so our prompt for today is to trace an outline of your hand, fill your hand with the things that feed your fire. You can write or draw these things. And what are the thoughts, hopes, feelings, and ideas that you feel whilst you're doing it? You can fill each finger of your hand with how, why, when, where, and what.
Oh, good one. Okay, great. I think I've got it. Let's get started.
Here we go.
Thank you very much.
And we've got a little timer going, so we will get started with the prompt.
Okay.
Right.
Now I just need to see if I can draw around my hand without getting pen on it. Now all I need to do is remember what I meant when I was writing it down.
Okay.
Okay?
I think
Got
we're
it.
good.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Jo, can you tell me a little bit more about your creative prompt?
Yeah, so this is this is what fuels my fire. So I feel like pretty much like everything I do, or like anything that fills me up, is like fueled by kind of love and connection. And that's like, I think normally the kind of energy that I'm going out into the world with, but also that, you know, that's what fills me up. But also ideas, and that idea of sort of really feeling something in the center of me that like bubbles up. So that's the kind of thing that I'm going for. And some of the sort of hows and the whats were like, I like things that feel like energizing, but then also things that kind of slow me down and feel relaxing. I feel like rest is something, we often have these particular ideas about what rest is, but actually for me a lot of rest is about like filling up, not just chilling, you know, moving down. But yeah, so I had like singing and music and dance, like things that really like lift me up and connect me to people, but also that's pie and chips and peas. Like the idea of like actually fueling my fire with like hearty meals, with like good conversation with friends and like talking to people. And yeah, with like I love, like, to me the who is always, you know, I just get so much energy from people. And like one of the things that I think we've got really much better at recently is that like my husband and my two small kids, like I think we spent a lot of the first 5 years of parenting being like, how do we divide and conquer and split ourselves up, and actually now we're spending more time as a four, and I'm really loving that. It really makes me feel happy. So doing that, but also hanging out with people we're in Stroud in Gloucestershire, and just like therefore being around nature and like I love the buzz of coming into London and being in the office one day a week and being around colleagues and filling up in that way. And then I love being able to like go home and see trees and be in the green, which is really great. And then this, I don't even know, I can't even remember what question I was on. But to me, I think what fuels my fire is having that rhythm of, like rest and then like going back out in the world, retreating, going back out and making sure that I'm doing all of those things together.
Mm-hmm. I love the combination, like the multifacetedness of what fuels your fire. And actually, I think we've got a lot in common here.
There you go.
Mine are very poorly done, and also the colour combination's probably not the best.
I love the colour combination. It's a classic.
Oh, thank you. But I've also got people that I love, bring me a lot of joy. Well, bring me a lot of joy. Joy fuels my fire. Writing too. Sometimes I'll just, if I'm doing like some journaling, really helps me. Being out in nature, being outdoors, especially because I live in London, so it can really help. Radical hope.
Oh, I love that.
Radical hope, radical optimism is something that just makes me feel positive, especially in a time when there's like lots of challenging situations going on. Exhibitions, feeling inspired by the work and the art that other people have done. Cooking, thinking about what actually fuels me. And reading too, like learning about new things, sharing ideas. And one thing I love about what you mentioned is community and the sense of community you get from different spaces. How do you think that sense of community fuels you, and why is it different in the different spaces that you kind of like go between?
I think, for me, one of the things that I've always loved in life is to meet different people with different life experiences doing different things. And I think I was really lucky to grow up in a city that was really diverse, go to a school that, had people from all over the city. It was really, I always felt like in all the different walks of life that I was doing, I was able to meet lots of people doing different things. And I think that's really kind of made me who I am and made me, it's really affected my view on the world and how I go out into the world. And I think it's something that really energizes me, is thinking about, how to spark connection with people, how to think about how other people, bringing people together is something that I also really love, whether that's in a kind of professional capacity through the January challenge or through a team or just like having people round to my house. Like, I think that is, it's something that is so vital to me as a person. And I think it's, it's something that really runs through my family as well. But I think, I'm definitely a people person. And I think I've learnt to manage that in a way that isn't like, sometimes I think I often used to be very much like, I'll just do what everyone else wants. Whereas I think I've now also learned how I can be myself in that space and hold space myself whilst also still holding lots of space for other people. And so it does fuel my fire rather than just drain it, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. So I love that you said that creativity can really help with things like people pleasing and overcoming that. Can you tell me about maybe a story or an example of how creativity has helped you to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like for me, a lot of my focus on creativity, when I was little, I very much focused on creativity in what people might think of as a traditional sense, which I would say is arts. Like I did a lot of drama, I did a lot of singing, I did a lot of, mainly those and other stuff. And I think there was a time, but certainly, for example, with singing, I was such a passionate singer and I can sing all right. And I was part of this incredible community choir, which was so beautiful, such an amazing experience to have growing up. We met 1 hour, 1.5 hours a week. It was a community choir, so anyone could join from across the county. And the woman who ran it was so inspiring and so brilliant. And we did all sorts of things. We won Youth Choir of the World and Llangollen International Eisteddfod. We were finalists in Choir of the Year, which is this big deal, against all these choirs who were often at like private schools or coming from all over the world. They practiced every day. They were like so rigorous. And there was this, I really remember when we went to that Youth Choir of the World, everyone was like, oh my God, why are we here? Like compared to everyone else. And then we won. And the thing that they said was, you transcended the notes and sang the inner meaning of the music. And I really remember that. And yet what happened was, sort of, then I was like, oh, I'd love to do more of this. I could run a choir. And I love that, that sort of facilitative nature of me is a real thing. Like, yeah, I can do this. And then I moved to Bristol and someone asked me to take on their choir. And I was part of this like 16-piece a cappella group, and which was great. And again, they were amazing. And I just wasn't as good as them. Like it's not the way I hear music. I'm not like really, the thing that I'm good at is the being in front of people and bringing them together and getting them to sing with passion. But I'm not the person that can like do things like in a really sort of meticulous musical way. And I think that experience in Bristol kind of really knocked my confidence, because I was trying to be this kind of I was trying to do it like everyone else, basically. I was trying to kind of be professional, or like have this, make it into a career, but do it in a way that fitted in with other people. And for a really good few years, I just thought, I can't, like, that isn't for me. I can't do that. And then actually what was really nice was that I moved to London and I started a choir for my office. And it was just because a few mates wanted to sing and I was like, I could do that. And because I didn't have anyone watching me, and it suddenly sort of reignited my joy in it, and remembering that it didn't matter if I got the notes wrong, because it kind of helped them think it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. I can get the notes, or we can all kind of do it together. It's not about I have to be the teacher and I have to be perfect and they have to listen to me. It became this sort of really, it was much more of a kind of joyous experience. And I did not think that was the story I was going to tell when you asked me that question. But it really, for me, I think that was a really big learning. And it's a learning that I really carry through, I think, to being the leader of a company, is that, like, I don't know the answers. If I knew, if I tried to know the answers, I'd make mistakes all the time. It would close me in. It would sort of say, there's a terrible habit I think leaders get into when they think everyone is looking to me to know the answer, and they withdraw and they hold back. Whereas actually for me, I think it's so important as a leader to say, I don't know, do you know? And obviously to show a sense of vision and to bring people along with you, but to be really okay with making a mistake. And I think, practicing my creativity and taking risks with that, and remembering that for me, creativity, the joy is in the creative practice. It's not about getting it right. It's not about having the answers. It's about having a go. And that's the same in leadership and in most of life, because we're all leaders of our own lives, aren't we?
So, Jo, I was listening to a podcast of yours earlier on, and something that you said that really stood out to me is that creativity is the antithesis of excellence. Could you speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, again, it goes back to that concept that that creativity has got sort of muddied. The word creativity has got really muddied alongside arts things, like, so that we think of creativity and we think about art and dance and drama and that kind of stuff, all which are creative and all which are really important. And I think that often we then think, oh, creative stuff you have to be good at. You have to try and, be a dancer. You have to in order to get to profession, or you have to improve and have a goal and get to the top of that. And actually those things to me are the opposites. That actually creativity is about the spark. It's about the idea. It's about the newness, or the flexing, or the risking and the trying. And when we start by trying to be perfect or trying to get things right, we often can't be creative, because we just stop, we stop being able to risk and fail, and which is so important in that process. So to me, I think I also think it's really, it's fab if people want to dance and try and then get better and better. There's nothing wrong with trying to get better and have a goal and improve on something. But I think if we start that and we make that the goal without thinking about the creativity and the joy and the spark, you're always going to lose that excellence. You're always going to, because you can't. To me, true excellence is when you're like fully in yourself and you're doing that thing to the best of your ability in the way that you really want to and making it your own.
Yeah.
And I think when we start by thinking, I've got to do it this way, it's got to be excellent, that crushes a lot of that.
Yeah, it kind of minimizes that state of flow that you can go into when you do something creative, but it also prevents you from trying new things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was like, for me, that, that is definitely the thing I sort of characterize quite a lot of the first couple of decades of, well, not the early bit, but the middle bit of my life is, I just, there were loads of things I would just never try because I was too scared. And it still happens to me where I'm like, oh God, am I going to make a fool of myself if I try this thing and I fail? And now I'm better at being like, hello voice, thanks for that. Thanks for trying to keep me safe. But actually, I'm going to crack on anyway.
Yeah.
But I think, it's what holds so many of us back. And so for some of us, it is at a level where we're conscious of it. But for lots of us, we've done it for so long and it's so embedded in us that it becomes real to us. It becomes real to us. I can't do that. It's not possible. I'm not creative. It's not a question you have about yourself. It's just something that's absolutely ingrained in you. And that makes me really sad. And that's why I started 64 Million Artists, because I sort of feel like we've got to at least get to the point where they think, maybe.
Maybe they can just tap into that. And actually, I think a lot of creativity is just very innate. That childlike joy that you have just playing, trying something new. It's such a special thing that children have. When you're with your children, you're exploring creativity. What has that been like? How do you explore it together?
That has been amazing. And I think, and it also really resonates with the experience we have of a lot of people that we work with through 64 is that, that moment when your kids are little is a real sort of door opening, a moment in your life where you're like, oh, I get to try that again. And for me, that has been really special to have like them. So I've got a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old son, and just both sons. And they are, super creative, because all kids are, as we all are, but they actually remember that. They don't question it. And I just love seeing where they take things. I did the January challenge with Nathaniel last year, and my older son, and I like every day, like looking at those challenges and how we did them together. It was just brought me so much joy. And I tell the story a lot, but I love it, is that so one of the challenges was it was on like day 3 or 4, find something that you have in common. In fact, I think you set that challenge. It's a great challenge. Find something in common you have with someone that's older or someone that's younger than you. And me and my mum had this like text exchange, and I wrote this poem, and it was like, me and my mum, we love the sea, my mum and me. And then literally like 2 or 3 days later, the challenge was about an object, like write an ode to an object. And we both sat down quietly, me and Nathaniel, like writing. It was a lovely picture of him sort of sitting at the foot of the Christmas tree writing this, little poem, which he obviously couldn't write. I mean, he was sort of, just turned 4. But he could write some letters. And it was the day we were taking the Christmas tree down, and he brought it over to me, and I could sort of tell he had the letters but no vowels. But doing a bit of cryptic investigation, he'd written, me and my mum, we love the tree, my mum and me.
Oh, that's and so special.
Yeah, it was so, this moment of like, intergenerational, like me and my mum, him and me, and like this, like, yeah, this stuff works. Like, we created this connection in a way that we never would have done if we hadn't had those prompts. And it's such a, like, it just brings me so much joy to be able to kind of share that with him, and to sort of know, like, to think about how do I create the space for those things to continue, and for them to, and especially as boys, like, it's really interesting because Nathaniel is super arty, and he's so creative, and Dash he likes cars and trucks and building. He's a real engineer. And like, people, it's really funny because people really say, oh, Dash is a real boy, isn't he? And oh, Nathaniel, he's so creative. Like, those two things are different.
Yeah.
And that thing around how do you how do I help make space for them to both like really maintain their creativity, because engineering and building, that's such a creative thing.
Exactly.
But how do they both explore that themselves?
Yeah. It goes back to what you were saying about creativity not being limited to the arts. It's not limited to drama and music. The engineers are some of the most creative people.
Absolutely.
The kind of innovative solutions that they come up with, that in itself is really creative. So that's really special. Thank you for sharing that. And we actually asked Nathaniel and Ash what creativity meant to them, so we're going to hear from them right now.
Can you tell us what you think creativity is? So you start with creativity is...
Dinosaur.
A dinosaur.
Creativity is...
There's no right answer.
Yourself.
Yourself. What do you mean by that?
Having fun.
Yeah?
Being yourself.
Being yourself. That's important, isn't it? Dashi, do you think you're creative?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good to know. What kind of creative things do you like to do?
Baking with you.
Yeah, I like baking with you too.
Watching programs together.
Yeah.
Saving the planet.
Saving the planet is cool.
Okay.
Board games.
Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol. Anything else?
Fashion.
Fashion?
Yeah.
You like fashion?
Yeah.
Great. Who do you find inspiring to do creativity?
You, Cousin Jude.
Anyone you see on the telly or anyone you read about in books?
Strictly.
Strictly, yeah.
So, Joe, with the January challenge coming up, it's so exciting, such an exciting time. But I'm really interested to know, what's the story behind the January challenge and what inspired it?
So we're coming up to the 11th January challenge, which is kind of bonkers.
Yeah.
Because when I look back in the time. So this is a story, again, this is a story I've told a lot, but I still love telling it. But so basically I was, it must have been 10, 11 years ago now, that I was, working in a job that I thought would be my dream job. I had, I was going out with the guy thought I was going to marry. So I had this very perfect, this is how my life is going to be. Isn't it great? And then he and I broke up. I suddenly was like, oh, I'm not sure about this job. It's great, but is it me? And what does it mean? And am I getting to be creative? And I was doing a lot of soul searching, as you often do after a big relationship. And all of that led to me feeling really anxious and stressed. And I started having panic attacks. And I suddenly was like, oh my God, I have spent so long trying to like hold my life together in a way, again, like I wasn't even feeling conscious of how I was doing it, but like this background anxiety in my brain all the time, like, be perfect, everything's gonna be great, isn't life gonna be great, keep going, great, you're gonna be brilliant. And then suddenly like, oh, it's not exactly turned out how I was gonna, and really threw me, and I it was really not very well. So I took a month off work, and I asked different people to set me different creative challenges to do every day. And it was so, different people. It was great, colleagues, friends, families, kind of strangers. People sort of passed it around on social media, and I got all these incredible things from like your average sort of run of the mill, like people you might expect it to be like, to really like weigh out things where I was like, whoa, can I do that? I think someone once was like something like, go to a field and do a performance for a cow.
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, amazing. Yeah, I guess so. What happened was, I started doing these challenges and I was like, oh my God, this is completely bringing me back to life. Like I felt like I, was making new connections with people. I felt like I was taking risks and I was trying things out, and I didn't have to be perfect, and it was joyful, and the mistakes I made just led me to cooler things, and it was just brilliant. And 2 weeks into that process, I thought, this is it. Like, this is the thing that I really want to do. So I quit my job and thought, I'll do something with this. And started freelancing. And one of the days, the challenges, was a guy that I'd worked with before, David Benklem, and he sent me this challenge of walking around London with him for like, I think we walked like 10 miles. Wow. And we just like walked all day talking about why creativity was important and all the stuff I was thinking about. And we were both like, there's something in this, let's start a company. And so we did. And the very first year, I must have done those challenges, I think, in the May. And then so the following January, I was like, I'll just see if anyone else, I've got loads of challenges left, I'll see if anyone wants to do them. And so I put it on, I think on Facebook, does anyone want to do these challenges with me? And I think I ended up with about 200 people,
Wow.
like friends of friends, like, and I'd put out we'd made this like really beta little site. And I have such a strong memory of like somewhere near to Christmas, like someone signing up that I didn't know who they were. And I was like, oh my God, it's a stranger, like a stranger's doing this thing.
And also, how did they find it? Like, what were they inspired by?
I was like, this is incredible. I was like, the joy of that. And so that's what we did the very first year. And it sort of doubled year on year after that. And probably year 3 or 4, we started thinking, well, why would we set the challenges? There's this incredible community of people. They should set the challenges. So then they started setting the challenges, and it grew and grew and grew until now, when there are kind of well over 50,000 people doing it each year. And that's, it's such a simple idea, and yet it's still an idea that I think has real weight, and people love it, and they come back year on year, which I love. Like, we see the same old faces, and then we see loads and loads of different faces. And also we don't see, there are constantly people coming up to me being like, oh yeah, I do that in my team meeting with everyone. I would never have known, like they don't get reported, or, there's all these little pockets of things happening that we don't even know about. And that's the kind of bit that I love the most.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love that there's such a community around the January Challenge now, and we're leaning more into creativity champions. What's really exciting about creativity champions for you?
So to me, again, like in that moment at the beginning of starting 64 Million Artists, I was just a creativity champion. It was just someone saying, I've had this cool experience. Does anyone want to share it with me? And the kind of power and the magic in that has obviously been infinite and really exciting. And I think I know that there are so many people working across the country doing that in their own way. There's so many people supporting their community. They're working in their library. They're a teacher in a school. They're working in a prison. They're, support worker in a care home. Those people are just doing such magical work all the time. And I feel like we really want to sort of champion them and support them, but also help them to sort of champion creativity as such an important tool for well-being, for connection, for, motivation, for all these things that we've seen when we've been sort of studying the results of the January Challenge over the years. And I think, but it's still, the thing to me is it's still really simple. It's not about, you have to run it with 50,000 people doing a thing. It is, for me still, I really want my kids' school to do it. So I'm going to print out the pack and take it to them. That's my act of being a creativity champion this time. And, those are still the moments that I think make we can all be creativity champions.
So Jo, if anyone listening wants to be a creative champion, what can they do?
Wow, it's really easy. For a start, they can tell their friend about the January Challenge. That's enough to be a creative, or just about creativity in general. Everyone's a creative champion. But if they want to do a bit more, certainly for January this year, they can download our Creativity Champions pack, which is very handily in the background. And there are 31 creative prompts or creative challenges, each one for each day of the week in January. So if you sign up as an individual, you'll just get them each day, and that's quite nice, having the surprise. But what the pack allows you to do is to get those in advance. So if you're running a group, or if you want to run them in your school or in your workplace, you can have them in advance, so you can sort of set up and know what you're going to do each day. And I think it's really important that, we do ours in our team meeting once a week, and then we might have an ideas meeting another time in the week. But, that's it. We might be doing them ourselves individually, but you don't have to do it every day. It doesn't have to be a massive deal. You don't have to put in a huge new workplace program. It's free. You don't need permission to do it. You can just set it up in your kitchen area at work and have some stuff on the table and get it done. So it's a really easy way to trial and have a go and take a risk. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and that's fine.
Yeah, I love that people can take part as much or as little as they want.
Absolutely.
And another question I wanted to ask was around creative rest. So I think when you were talking about the January challenge and how it came to be, it really struck me that a lot of that was about resting, and creativity and that sense of joy coming back was from resting. I know that 64 also have an August off policy, and so creative rest is a major part of the company and a major part of your life. So could you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and it's lovely that you've picked up that, that month of challenges was a rest for me. Like some people might have felt like that was a really busy month or it was doing but for me, it was like a rest from the like relentlessness of life, like a rest from doing the same thing and like feeling like I'm on a treadmill with something. It was like a rest from that moment. So sometimes I feel like, you need a rest, a lie down, a kind of like, oh God, I just need a breath.
Like just go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. But also for me, a rest is often like a change from what you do normally. So I think we have, for the last 2 years, taken the whole of August off as a company. And I think it's been absolutely vital to maintaining the creativity of the company. And it's, we grew significantly this year after the first August off. I'm pretty sure we're set to do it again this year, because what it allows us to do is, I guess, 2 things. One is refuel, re-energize, have new and better ideas. But also, I think stopping what you're doing for a moment and not thinking about it, and then coming back to it and saying, is that actually what we want to do? Or like, does that have the worth that we thought it had when we were kind of caught up in that treadmill? Like, it's so important. And I think we so often in kind of, with companies on treadmills in a capitalist society, we're going forward, we are growing, we are doing, and actually we don't often stop to question, is this the right thing to do? Like we've invested all this energy in this, could we possibly pull the plug? And actually I think it's so important to do that. And that's really what kind of August gives us, is that perspective to make changes, to do things differently, to give ourselves a break, and also respect that we're all human beings with lives. I would say my August these days, when now my children are in school holiday mode, it's not actually particularly restful, but it does allow me to be a mum all the time for a month. And that's really nice, because actually, even though it's exhausting and hard, it's also just so nice to just wear one hat for a little bit. And I'm not sure I could do that 12 months, but it kind of gives me a chance to just be there for them, and also have some time for myself. But it's not having to juggle a million balls in the air, which is what so many people are doing so much of the time.
Do you have a favourite memory from having August off in the past 2 years? Like from these past 2 years, what's been like a really special thing that you remember?
I think it's funny because the first August off was actually horrendous. Like there was so much awful. It was a really difficult time for the family, and it was really hard so I do not remember that August off particularly fondly. But what it did allow me to do was be like, there is so much stuff happening here that's not okay, and we're really struggling. It allowed me to ask for help, like call our health visitor and say, we're drowning, like things are really difficult, there's all these different pressures on us as a family, and it's not working. And that really helped us then to like get some support and access, other resources that helped us. And then I suppose then what's been lovely in comparison this year is the memories of August for me they're small and lovely, like they're just content, peaceful. I did manage to have like a little retreat where I spent some time on my own, which is really nice. But I also, just had really nice days with the kids, and did, things that, yes, we went on holiday for a few days, but, on the whole, it was just those lovely day-to-day ins and outs of doing life in a way that felt manageable and peaceful. And that was due to me having had that time a year ago to be like, things really need to change and we need to find a different way of operating. And then to be able to reflect on that a year later and be like, we did that. Like, and I don't think we would have been able to do that if I hadn't had that month off. So yeah, it's been really like vital for me.
Amazing. I love all the memories that you've shared, and I love that kind of it's helped you to have the time and space to reflect, take a step back, and just kind of holistically reflect on your life? Because sometimes I feel like we deprioritize a lot of the things that are important to us, the things that fuel our fire, things that we've had in our hand, because work takes priority so often. Great. Thank you, Jo. So, final part of the podcast, we've got a quick fire round. So I'm going to be asking you a set of quick fire questions, and you just have to think of the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Are we ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. Drum roll, please.
Okay.
What is one place that's guaranteed to be a source of inspiration for you?
I do this walk from my house, and I always do it. Like, I have a coaching call with my coach every once a week, and I do the same. It's like along the river, back along the canal, back up to my house, and it's so beautiful and so peaceful, and there's never anyone else on it, and I love it.
Can you think of a moment when you tried to be creative, but maybe it didn't end like you imagined?
So many of those. Oh my God, that's really hard. I think. Oh my God. Try to think of a creative moment, a moment where I tried to be creative,
but it didn't end up how you imagined.
I mean, I think that's every moment of creativity, isn't it? Like, in a good way and a difficult way. I feel like, I think often with my writing really helps me process. So I often sit down to write about something and then end up writing about something completely different, and it will kind of unlock a bit of my brain where I'm like, oh yeah, I was thinking about that and I didn't even realize. So for me, that pretty much always happens when I sit down to write.
Great, thank you, Jo. And last one, what tool would you choose to help you survive or stay creative on a deserted island?
Oh, that is a good one, isn't it? I think I like a stereo, big power ballads, music. I feel like they're my guilty pleasure, like being able to really belt out a song really loud with no one. So, I mean, I don't really need backing to do that, but I think it helps with the morale and motivation. I think that would help me kind of get through the day.
Is there a go-to song that you'd be singing?
I mean, there's so many. I feel like a lot of the musicals, like Fame, Blood Brothers, the big female parts. I love those ones.
Amazing. Thank you, Jo. Okay. So, Jo, my final question for you today is about what creativity is to you. And for this, we're going to have some boards and some pens.
Exciting.
So just think of the first thing that comes to your mind. It could be a word or it could even be a picture. But what is creativity to you?
Okay. Oh, the pressure's on me. You're not doing it. Okay.
I'm just staring at you.
I think this one is I was doing this in a workshop. Creativity. I have to work out how I can spell that.
Yeah, we're good.
What I love is that it's so different for different people.
Wow. Can we do a little flip to the screen?
A big reveal. So to me, fundamentally, I think creativity is the essence of who we are. And when we are creative, it allows us to kind of access that person that we are when we're born, that we're sort of the fullest expression of ourselves, that we don't put these sort of boundaries and stories and barriers against ourselves. To me, we are love, we are ourselves, we are human. That's to me what creativity is.
It's integral to us.
It absolutely is.
Amazing. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for this amazing conversation. It's been so good to learn from you and learn more about what creativity means to you and also to your family. For anyone who would like to also be inspired by creativity and have some creative prompts sent directly to your inbox, you can sign up to the January Challenge online, subscribe to our newsletter, and feel some creative rest for the rest of your January. Thank you, Jo, for joining us.
Thanks so much, Michaela.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Podcast over.